Welcome back to Chit Chat with David Leonardis. It's so fun to get to learn stuff here on TV, like I was saying. Now let me ask you this. So you were hanging out, you were working on your project there in Howard Finster's Paradise Garden. Did you ever see a ghost?
The answer is no. And
did you ever hear one?
Maybe, but it wasn't enough of a powerful experience.
Do you, Norman Gerardo, professor of religion, believe in ghosts?
I believe that yes, there are manifestations of strangeness in the universe that in different cultures they can be called a ghost.
Are those manifestations the energy of a dead person that is still here on the planet walking around? That's what a ghost is, right?
Yes.
The short version.
And the answer is probably yes.
Really?
Sure, because whatever spirit is connected with energy. And
energy does not dissipate, it just changes forms, right?
Exactly. And all human cultures, I mean, the problem is with the idea of ghosts, a lot of the experiences that people call ghost experiences are probably not. But I think...
You think that people are being colorful and that they didn't really...
Well, either being colorful or they've had an unnerving experience of some kind.
So you say most, but then you say further, you think there are ghosts.
Well, I think there are truly, and I like this word, even though it's a word that is not particularly an intellectual, professorial word. I think there are spooky things out there in the universe. In fact, if you force me to describe why religion ultimately has the kind of validity that it does have, you know, the more highfalutin way to put it would be that all religions affirm the fact that there is a sacred dimension out there, a transcendence, a God, a spirit, or whatever. A better way to put it, I think, is to say that there is something spooky going on in the universe. And I put it that way because the word itself, because of its kind of popular connotations, is fuzzy enough that you really can't pin that down very well.
What do you, Norman Gerardo, believe in aliens? And then tell us what the other religions think.
Well, you know what I think is interesting is a lot of the current talk about alien abduction stories, etc., are really descriptions of what would have been called in the Middle Ages encounters with succubus or an incubus or other spiritual entities. In fact, it's interesting when you look at the kind of structure or the plot of some of the alien abduction stories. They're very similar to the stories that you can read in medieval accounts of encounters with the spirit world and with dead spirits, or ghosts for that matter. So clearly there is something about the way we human beings react to the world that is channeled through our eyes into our brain, and then our imagination and memory works on it, and spins a web that produces certain patterns. One of them is the story pattern that is pretty much universal, because we see these in all cultures, whether it's Chinese culture or Southern American culture. And it's interesting that for us, because spacecraft and outer space and going to the moon, as we know with Howard Finster, it's terribly interesting to see how his Christian cosmology is expanded and includes UFOs.
Howard Finster said visions of other planets and other worlds, and that's not what the Bible says.
And, well, no, that's not true. I mean,
okay, well, now tell me.
Prophets, all prophets and spiritual people, you know, it is true. When Howard talks about heaven and hell being other planets, well, that's a pretty damn good way to think about maybe what heaven and hell are, at least in terms of the human imagination.
Tired of the gray weather in Chicago? Tired of the cold? Tired of staying inside all the time? Have you always wanted to be a star? Have you always wanted to go to Italy? Let Documentary Travel Tours, LLC, take you on a trip of a lifetime. You're the star of your own documentary in Italy. You, your family, you're the star. We make it happen. You show up and be a star. We'll see you in Italia. Come on out to the Howard Finster Vision House Museum. We're in Northwest Georgia, an hour and a half north of Atlanta, 45 miles south of Chattanooga.
644 miles away from the David Leonardis Gallery, Chicago. Check us out online, howardfinstervisionhouse.com. I've got 250 pieces of art in my old friend's home. He had a vision from God to paint sacred art. There's quite likely a ghost there. It's a fantastic getaway. You can stay in our bed and breakfast. We'll see you in Northwest Georgia.
Hello out there, David Leonardis here. I'd like to tell you about a great opportunity. David Leonardis Productions offers high-quality TV commercials at a very reasonable price. Our experienced professionals will work with you to put you at ease and make sure you get a commercial that you will love. What better way to advertise and promote your business than with a TV commercial? Forget about it! Call David Leonardis Productions today and put your business on the cutting edge.
Norman, what was your first meeting with Howard Finster like?
My first meeting with Howard Finster was very momentous for me. I had heard about him, and I decided that I would fly down and find out for myself what really was going on here in North Georgia. And this was the summer of 1985. And I flew down with my colleague, who was the head of the galleries at my university. And we borrowed my father's car, who lived in Atlanta, and we drove up here and we arrived late at night. And we had no idea what to expect. This was when he was working in the studio, as it was called. And we knocked on the door and we entered another world, quite literally. Howard was working at his easel, and Chucky was there with a friend watching television in the corner. And Howard asked us who we were, and he realized that he had some northern professors here visiting, and he went into one of his famous Howard Finster preaching cycles, and that went on for quite a while. We were so awestruck by the situation that I don't remember exactly, well, we could obviously hardly get a word in edgewise, but we were reacting to the phenomena that Howard was, especially in those days where his energy level was still quite extraordinary. And so this went on, and of course, as the religion professor, I was intrigued just by the fact that here was someone giving us a heavy dose of good old-fashioned Southern preaching, but with a twist, a very unusual and powerful twist. And the culmination of this was probably around 11 o'clock at night or midnight. We heard a car driving up, and Chuck ran to the door, looked out, and started jumping up and down, saying, R-E-M, R-E-M, R-E-M. And frankly, I hate to confess this, but I didn't really know who R.E.M. was. So in the door walks the R.E.M. lawyer at that time, Michael Stipe. And as I found out, and as has become part of the legend with Howard Finster, Michael Stipe was in a sense an early disciple who would come and spend time in the garden. And in many ways, I think, would see Howard as a kind of guru figure. They had already done a video in the garden at that point. And so, again, this was simply a manifestation of an incredible strangeness about what this represented for me and for my colleague.
David Leonardis Pop-Up Gallery, 3222 North Clark Street. We're at Belmont and Clark, right next to the Alley stores. It's like an art explosion in here. There's 500 pieces of art. Art collectors are better, more well-rounded people. All the art looks better in your house. I can help you out with that. Check us out online, dlg-gallery.com. Give me a call for an appointment, 312-863-9045, and we'll see you on Clark Street. Aliens, yes or no?
Well, I mean, that's a big question. Are there other intelligent life forms out there in the billions and billions of planets that are inhabited?
Visited?
Probably, but we have no proof of it. Are what most stories that people tell about contact with aliens? I don't think they're actual contact with aliens from other planets. I think that in some cases they're probably technologically embellished ghost stories are what we're talking about.
What is succubus and incubus?
Incubus. These were the kinds of spirits that would invade people's minds in the dead of night, in dreams and in visions.
Like delirium.
Yes, it's often a sexual connotation of the succubus. The word itself has a sexual kind of ring to it. In fact, the succubus specifically was a kind of spiritual entity that would have intercourse with a woman. And as
so
you know,
a woman would be delirious, she'd have a vision, and then the vision's having sex with her, is that what you're saying?
Yes. You know the alien abduction stories. There are two aspects of alien abduction stories, one of which is the anal probe, and
I have heard that.
And the other, of course, has to do with sexual intercourse with aliens. And that's a classic succubus scenario. And isn't that interesting? And that is telling us something about what it means to be human, and it's telling us something about the nature, the strangeness of the world we live in, which is not just something in terms of our own immediate strangeness at this time and place, but something that clearly goes deep into the history of the human species.
Here on Chit Chat with David Leonardis, we are teaching you things that I didn't know, that hopefully you're learning, you're excited to learn. It's so fun sitting here with Norman Gerardo.
Tired of the cold weather in Chicago? Tired of staying inside all the time? Tired of staying in America all the time? Have you always wanted to be a star? Do you know that you're a star? Have you always wanted to go to Italy? Documentary Travel Tours LLC will take you to Italy, will make you a star. You're already a star. Come on to Italy and we'll see you next time.
David Leonardis Pop-Up Gallery, 3222 North Clark Street. We're at Belmont and Clark, right next to the Alley stores. It's like an art explosion in here. There's 500 pieces of art. Art collectors are better, more well-rounded people. All the art looks better in your house. I can help you out with that. Check us out online, dlg-gallery.com. Give me a call for an appointment, 312-863-9045, and we'll see you on Clark Street.